Oh, welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, brother,
Yes.
to you and yours, and especially the listeners. Shane, the season is coming to an end here, and I just want to take a second here because we truly do appreciate it. We're not just saying it, Shane. There's a lot to be thankful for
Yeah.
you and I, and we've got jobs, we're making money, we got a healthy family, but also, these listeners, man, without the listeners, there is no show. We say that all the time, but it really is true. So I just want to take a second here before we even get rolling to just thank the audience, Shane, for not only giving us the time of day, but probably more importantly, sticking with us. So many of you stick with us all season long, and it really, that's what makes the show. It's not Shane and I, it's the listeners.
It truly is, and that's what this is to me, man. When I think Thanksgiving, I think of family, I think of friends, and I think of our podcast listeners as both. We call you all cousins because you're part of the family, and unfortunately we can't all get around the campfire and talk college football, but this is our version of it. And I think about, I'm jumping on a Reddit page and somebody asks about a podcast, and I see 2 or 3 folks talking about that SEC podcast, or I see it on the Twitters, and it's just, you don't have to do that, and you have, and the only reason we have people listening to the show is basically word of mouth. If it weren't for y'all, it wouldn't be where it's at now. It's not like we're running commercials on this thing. So I'm thankful for my family, because this does take time away from them. I'm sure Mike will put it on the edits here. I just raised hell at the youngest, and I'm like, come on. They're always surprised that I'm doing a podcast, but the fact of the matter is they do tiptoe around me. They allow me to do this for you guys, and if it weren't for family, hell, Mike, we're family, and if it weren't for you, I definitely wouldn't be doing this. So this is best time of the year. It's one of my favorite, if not the favorite holiday. We got some rivalry games coming up, and I'm just thankful to be doing another show with you, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Also thankful for you, buddy. But hey, I know what we're most thankful for besides this football, besides the audience, is this delicious food. Before we make our picks, I just want to know, Shane, I want the audience to know what Cousin Shane's ideal Thanksgiving Day plate. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before, but I'm sure we picked up some new listeners. I'm just curious, what's it like to sit down with Cousin Shane at that Thanksgiving table and just destroy some food?
Well, you better get there first, because I'm going to wipe out half of it. No. Obviously, I'm a turkey guy. I love turkey. Nothing against the ham folks out there. I know there's a few, but I've always been a Thanksgiving turkey, Christmas ham kind of dude. Yeah. So I like the turkey. I love mashed potatoes and gravy. If you get good gravy, my favorite though is sweet potato casserole, and I do it right. I'm telling you, I've perfected the recipe. It's more of a strudel up top. I've even posted this on the Twitter the other day. If you're looking for a fantastic sweet potato casserole, take the recipe I put out there, double the strudel, and so that, because everybody likes that crunchy sweetness on top, and the pecans. Man, I'm cooking it tonight. You can tell I'm excited because I'm like, man, I could probably get a little bit of that tonight if I play my cards right. But that's my go-to. A little bit. I'm poor, man. I grew up poor, so I like them canned cranberries, not that fancy stuff. I don't want to taste the real fruit. I want to see the lines in it from when you dropped it out of that can. So a little bit of that with the turkey pairs well, and then following it up with any dessert I can get my hands on. Not a pumpkin guy, more of a pecan pie guy. So that's typically what's going to happen, and then nice big yeast roll to sop up whatever's left behind. So what's deviled eggs? Oh shit, Mike, I'm getting so hungry and lost. Don't forget, deviled eggs is like an appetizer for me. You know, you pop in about 3 or 4 of them. You're waiting in line. It's sitting there sliding around on your dish. You know, you're like, hey, I can go ahead and knock a couple of these out before I get to the table. So can't go wrong with the deviled eggs either. And the deviled eggs, I'm not one of the relish guys. A lot of people are. I don't want you to get too fancy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think people get too fancy with some of this food. I've tried the deep fried deviled eggs, which is terrible, or maybe I just had a terrible one. I've seen them with the candied bacon, the relish, the pickles. Ugh, no. I want just old school mustard, mayonnaise, egg, a little paprika to make it look pretty, and boom, you got yourself a good meal.
You know, the only thing you missed, and I know you hate it.
Dressing. Oh, don't forget dressing.
Your plate just get more and more
Oh,
on it, you know? What size are these plates you're using, Shane?
Oh, I'm doubling up, man. Oh, the more I talk, that's the problem with Thanksgiving, because you got your idea, and then next thing you know, you make it around, and you've got no room left, and then you forgot something. So your seconds just involves what you just left behind on the first go round. So
Right.
I'm sorry, Mike. I could talk all day about food. You know that.
Well, I know you hate vegetables, Shane, but my mom, she makes green bean casserole that I love. So that's got to be on my plate. And the only thing, you know, that I'm new to this. I don't know how this skipped my whole family. Nobody in my family makes this. I have to special order it. But chess pie, that is like my new favorite in the world, Shane. It's kind of it's kind of like vanilla pie. It's almost like like a lemon bar.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
I've had. No.
You
Don't
know
worry,
about the chess pie, huh?
I've had chess pie. You're not trying anything new here. I'm just kind of surprised though. So your go-to is green bean casserole? I always wondered why there was so much of that laying around the table, because I didn't think anybody. I thought it looks pretty. You know, you want to take a picture and put it on your Facebook, but I never knew people were actually eating that stuff.
I feel like you got to get at least some vegetables in this meal, and I don't know how healthy green bean casserole is, but it's got greens in it, you know.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, mashed potato, that's potatoes. You know, that's green.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Shane. Well, hey, before we make our picks, one final thing we're thankful for, Shane. We are thankful for the sponsors, Game Time Sidekicks. Head on over to GameTimeSidekicks.com. This is officially licensed NCAA gear. They got every SEC team represented, and even some of those others for those other schools outside the SEC that we don't care about, but maybe you got some family members that made the decision to go outside of the SEC for whatever reason. Head on over to GameTimeSidekicks.com. This is double wall insulated and lined with copper, and we're talking tumblers, bottles, shaker cups, sippy cups, all that, and you get 15% off your entire order at GameTimeSidekicks.com, Shane. If you put in the promo code HeyBuddy, all one word, you can find all this in the podcast show notes, but I promise you, if you order some of this Game Time Sidekicks, you will not be disappointed. And back for another season, Shane, PrizePicks.com. Head over to PrizePicks.com if you want to play some daily fantasy sports with us. And they are running a special promo this week, Shane. Guaranteed winner here.
Whoa.
Justin Jefferson, former LSU Tiger, was on the 2019 National Championship team.
Yeah.
Now he's tearing up for the Minnesota Vikings. Over half a yard on Thursday, Thanksgiving against New England. I mean, come on. All he's got to do is have one receiving yard. You are a winner at PrizePicks.com. So head on over to PrizePicks.com. Don't forget that promo code SEC, and they'll match your initial deposit all the way up to $100. Again, that promo code SEC. You can find that in the show notes. Are you, brother, ready to hear my Prize Pick selections for this week?
Well, I will say this. Justin Jefferson is the only good guy on my fantasy football team, so he better have more than a half a yard because I'm fighting for my life to get into the playoffs here. So, yes, Mike, I want to hear your pick so I can bet the opposite. And I said that correct, listeners. Mike was on a heater the first of the season. Now he's off. So you got to know when to hold him, know when to fold him. So give me your pick so I can tell you why I'm going the other way.
Yeah, fade Mike once again strong. But, hey, I'm sticking with the Thanksgiving Day theme. Shane, I'm so locked in on this holiday. Give me Will Rogers over 315.5 passing yards against them Ole Miss Rebels. I feel like if Mississippi State's going to win this ball game, it's going to be on Will Rogers' arm. And I think he has a huge performance. What do you think?
Absolutely. Mississippi native. Come on, this game means a little bit more. So I told you I was going to disagree with you, but I'm locking that pick, brother. Lock that one down.
Now, the other one I got here, Jackson Dart. This is another thing I love about Prize Picks, Shane. They've got, you could do just passing, you could do just rushing, or you can combine them. So combined passing and rushing yards for Jackson Dart, 250.5. I'm going over because I still think this is going to be a pretty, decently back and forth scoring game. Both these defenses, I think, are going to be at a disadvantage going up against these offenses. Give me Jackson Dart over 250. Again, this is passing and rushing total yards. Thoughts on that one?
Kind of a gut check here. I mean, if you feel like Ole Miss is playing from behind, I love this pick. If you feel like Ole Miss has got a comfortable lead, not so much. So I think that's really what you got to be going through. I think it's one way or the other, and it's based on flow of game here. So I don't want to give my tip away, but I kind of like the over.
Well, let's just get right into it then, Shane. The only matchup we got on Thursday, Mississippi State at Ole Miss, number 20 in the country. Them Rebels, Shane, favored by 2 points at home. Game kicks off at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central on ESPN. The over-under, 61 total points. Who's going home with the Egg Bowl this year, Shane?
Oh, who's going home after this game, Mike? I mean, where's home these days, you ask? So I think the news, and the noise. We've been talking about it all week with Lane Kiffin. He's out. He's done. This is a done deal. And then all of a sudden we get kind of roped back in. Well, maybe he gives it one more go around. But Mike, I don't know. The more time that this thing stews, the more time I think that Lane Kiffin is already 1 foot out the door. And I hate to say that, Ole Miss fans, coming up on the Egg Bowl here. I know you'd love to keep him around forever, but I just got a feeling this may be the last game we see Lane Kiffin coaching at Ole Miss. Yeah. And I think that catches up. He gets out here, he talks about, well, my last game with FAU, blah, blah, blah. That's a bowl game, whatever, against some loser's team. That's I don't even know who they faced, and it doesn't even matter. It's not worth looking up the stat. But this game is a little bit different because both these teams are coming to play. Nobody's opting out for this game. This is a lot on the line. This is a huge game for recruiting. This is a huge game for just the state of Mississippi, bragging rights all year long. These guys hate each other. You're not going to see Lane Kiffin and the Pirate fist fighting on the sidelines, but there's a good shot you may see some of the players doing it. Why? Because, again, something I mentioned earlier in the season, there is almost 100 kids between these two rosters from the state of Mississippi. This is a big, big game. And going into a game like this, it's the little things that I think becomes a factor. Lane Kiffin not fully committed to Ole Miss is a factor. You got kids out here tweeting, texting, Snapchatting, talking about, what's going on behind. They're not focused as much on this game as I think Mississippi State is, because I think the Pirate, something you talked about earlier in the week, is fighting for his job. And I think there's been a little bit of a shakeup in the locker room, a little bit of growing pains. You've seen that throughout the season here, but as of late, I feel like Mississippi State is back on track. It starts with Will Rogers. It ends with the Pirate, and I think that's why I've got them winning the Egg Bowl. brother, it's going to be a game. Don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be a tight football game, but I just think Mississippi State jumps out early and is able to secure the lead. And just similar to Arkansas, I don't think Ole Miss gets back in it till late. So give me Mississippi State 35, Ole Miss 21.
Oh man, blowout kind of touchdown game.
I think honestly, Mike, it feels like it's going to be one of those games that Mississippi State just goes out early. 28-0, 21-0, something like that. And I think Ole Miss gets back into it, but you just can't do it with the arm of Dart. It's going to require more than that. It's going to require more than this fantastic running game that Ole Miss has. And I just think Mississippi State plays their best game of the year. And just they have to, Mike. They have to for the coach.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they have to win this ball game, Shane. So much going into it. I mean, we're sitting here talking about all the disappointment potentially of Lane Kiffin leaving. Mm-hmm. This is going to be massive, massive disappointment in Starkville if this team, with the most experienced roster in the SEC, Will Rogers, the most prolific passer, if you just want to talk statistics, in the SEC, yet we go 7-5. I mean, that would be basically unacceptable.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you sit around and you fire Mike Leach because I think he's a really good coach, but we got to be honest. We tell it like we see it. That would be a major disappointment and a bad coaching job this season. So, hey, everything you said is true. Pressure to win this ball game, pressure to bring the Egg Bowl home. If you can't beat Lane Kiffin with, as Cousin Shane puts it, he's got 1 foot out the door. I would imagine, Shane, if we had a camera on Lane Kiffin's house, there's probably nothing inside of it because it's all in the moving van. And they've already gotten that far with it. If you can't beat this Ole Miss team, you ain't gonna ever beat Lane Kiffin. And guess what, Shane? It ain't happening this week. Give me Ole Miss 30, Mississippi State 27. I understand the big narrative going in. I mean, you can't not talk about Lane Kiffin. He's like the talk of college football right now. But if at all possible to move on from that, I think Ole Miss is a much better team. And they've played much better for the vast majority of the season. Now, they've lost, yes, to LSU and Alabama and Arkansas, but guess what? Mississippi State's lost to 2 of those 3, and the only one they beat was Arkansas without KJ Jefferson. So, I'm not saying that I only got it as a 3-point ball game. I'm not saying they can't compete, but given it at home, Lane Kiffin always wins his final game. He said it himself, Shane. So if this is his last game, I like for him to go out on top. I really think it comes down to, can Mississippi State, which has a number 87 rush defense efficiency in the country, can they slow down Ole Miss on the ground? I don't think they can do it. At least not all game long. That's why I think Jackson Dart has himself a big day. He's been running it right there with Judkins and Evans. So I think all of them go over 100 yards on the ground. And I think Will Rogers, I think he has a ton of success against this Ole Miss defense. So like I was saying, back and forth. Could be last team with the ball wins the game, but I think it's going to be Ole Miss with the home field advantage, with playing their hearts out for their coach. Either that, or you could be dead right. Mississippi State blows them out the water because they find out Kiffin is 1 foot out the door. But I can't wait to see it. Could go either way.
It could go either way. And if you talk to me long enough, I could be convinced that Ole Miss wins this thing. But I'm not convinced we're getting the best Ole Miss anymore. They lost 3 out of the last 4 games. Yeah. Hell, even Texas A&M gave them a run for their money. So I'm just not convinced that, like I said, that this is what we signed up for week 1. So, coaches on the way out. I mean, there's just there's that narrative. That's that fight or flight. Yeah. And, it really is going to matter what what happens in that locker room, not what Lane Kiffin says. No magical words are gonna prevail here. But if there was enough senior leadership this week to rally the troops, maybe even a players only meeting or something, like, whatever. If Lane's gone, he's gone. We're gonna be here together. We're gonna build something. We're gonna close this season strong. I'm just not convinced that those pieces are in that locker room. So that's why I'm going to take Mississippi State.
All right, Shane, we got 2 games on Friday. Let's go with the early one first. Arkansas at Missouri. Razorbacks favored by 3 points on the road. This game kicks off at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on CBS. The over-under's 55.5 total points. Who you got in the not a rivalry game?
It's funny, we put it out there, and first thing we get is Arkansas saying this ain't a rivalry. It's just a rivalry because we've been down the last few years, and if they would have came in the conference earlier, it wouldn't. It's funny how this is becoming a rivalry. And all off season, you say anything about Mizzou, you get comments from the Razorbacks. You say anything about Arkansas, it's comments from Mizzou. These guys absolutely hate each other, and that's why we love this weekend, Mike. This is another great game, and I'm glad that it's kind of isolated from some of the others so we can really soak it up. I think this one is going to be a hell of a matchup. And my first Morristown Honda, I'll go ahead and let you know, Mike, no confidence in the outcome of this game. And I'm going to tell you why, because I saw some growth. I saw some development in Arkansas last week. I saw, there was still some mistakes being made, but it felt like there was more positive than negative, and that's not been the case in Arkansas for a long time. So I think beating Ole Miss was a huge step forward. It was big for Pittman and company. You go to the other side, Missouri has had a frustrating season, Mike, to say the least. I think their record is extremely deceiving. They're fighting for a bowl game. They got to win this week, but this is also a team that a handful of plays, they're 9-3, or 10-2. I mean, they're seriously, Missouri had potential and opportunities to win a lot of games this year, and I think they're finally figuring it out. I got to see a little bit with the offense. That's the big thing. The defense can take them so far. It's how far can the offense go? And I thought, the last couple of weeks, I like the way this offense is starting to move and starting to go. So that's kind of why I'm picking them, Mike. This is, I know it's at home. You got Thanksgiving. Eli's out here begging the fans to show up early, be there, be loud. That's what it's going to take. It's got to be a rowdy environment. Arkansas does not think Missouri's an opponent. I'm just being real with you. At least the fans don't. They're expecting to win this game. And Missouri wants to win this game. So that's why I've got Missouri winning 28, Arkansas 27.
Mevis with the extra point to win it or field goal or something like that.
That would be magical, Maybe miss it, but somebody called a timeout to freeze him, and then he comes back out and he makes it and wins the game. So, yes, I think this is going to be the best game this weekend. And nothing against the Egg Bowl, nothing against the Seminoles, but this is the game I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, and I think it's got possibility, Shane, of being just a wild, wacky game where crazy things happen, unexpected things, plays that some of these players, you can ask them to do it 100 times, they can't replicate what just happened. Something, some kind of crazy, kicked ball that gets intercepted or something like that. I see things like that happening, but I am fascinated to see Arkansas offense versus Missouri defense. That's one of the best matchups, I think, this week in the SEC. But what if you're right about Ole Miss, Shane? What if they've kind of phoned it in and the Lane Kiffin stuff is a distraction? Yeah. All of a sudden, that takes a lot of shine off Arkansas's big win over Ole Miss. And I'm not trying to do that here, but if they get their doors blown off by Mississippi State like you're predicting, then all of a sudden Ole Miss doesn't look that good. And, they're not even going to be ranked. So that's something to consider there. But, man, I'm completely torn on this one as well. Could go back and forth. Which Brady Cook shows up, I think that's a big answer. But thankfully, Arkansas defense, which it has turned the corner. If Arkansas defense, Drew Sanders and company gets to Brady Cook, this could be a long day for Missouri.
Yeah.
But, hell, Shane. Like you're saying, man, we're out here. We're fighting for bowl eligibility. Drink's giving up those play calling duties. Seems like the offense has responded.
Yeah.
Morristown Honda, Missouri, 28, Arkansas, 27. We got the same score, same result. 55-yard field goal as time expires, wins it.
I'll tell you,
I got no confidence in this prediction.
No confidence. Arkansas was on cloud nine. Their night game. It was an electric atmosphere. It was a top 25 win. I think there's going to be a little natural lull here coming into this game. I mean, we're talking Mizzou. It's going to be probably like 48 degrees, raining all day. I think it's like 95% chance of rain all day. I mean, it's going to be nasty. It's going to be ugly, and I think that type of atmosphere favors a defense. And I think Mizzou's got one of the best ones in town. They're a lockdown, dude. The lockdown secondary. They're going to load the box. They're going to make KJ win with the arm. And I'm just not convinced off 1 week that he does. So it's still going to be a great game. And we're probably wrong. If we both pick it, Lord knows we're probably wrong here.
I was going to say, congratulations, Razorback Nation. Shane and I both picked Missouri. That means you are a guaranteed lock of the week.
Did they ever find a trophy for this thing?
Oh, yeah. The borderline trophy.
Yeah, I mean, but what is the trophy? Is it like a picture of a borderline? I don't know.
It's an outline of the two states put together. It's pretty awful. And it's like, I think it's like 5 feet tall and it weighs like 100 pounds.
That was thrown together at the last minute. Yeah. Maybe this isn't a rivalry, Mike. I'm just kidding.
All right, how about the other Friday matchup we got, Shane? Florida at number 16, Florida State. Seminoles favored by 9.5 points. The game kicks off at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on ABC Friday night. This is going to be weird. Over under 58 total points. Who wins the game?
Man, I hate the Seminoles, brother. I do. It's not the worst ACC team. Talking to you, Clemson. We'll get to you in a minute, Dabo. But it is up there, brother. And a lot of that has to do with you. I'm not going to lie, Mike. Mike grew up a little bit of a Florida State fan, a little bit of, in the prime right after, the Peter Warwicks and the Warwick Dunns and all those guys. Yes, they had some good years, Mike, but just enough for me to hate them. And I've never been a fan of them. And so I'm not going to beat around the bush. Everybody's going to come out and they're going to tell you that the Seminoles are great. They've been playing awesome. They've been blowing teams out 30, 40 points. It's magical season. They really turned it around up there. But I don't think they've faced a serious opponent yet. I think Florida got caught looking ahead with the Vanderbilt game. I think it was a little. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take anything away from Vanderbilt. It was an awesome game for them. The fans, all of them got to. They got on the field. I don't even know if they attempted to tear down the goalposts there. But it was good for them. It was great for that fan base. But I think if there was an extra quarter in that game, Florida would have won it, man, because they were coming back. They were starting to put things together, and I think that's what happened is we just got caught sleeping a little bit. They're not going to get caught sleeping this week, Mike. So I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Give me the upset. Florida 31, Florida State 30. Two Morristown Hondas, man.
Let me ask you this, Shay, because I realize we don't live in this fantasy land or anything, but had Florida beaten Vanderbilt, what do you think the spread for this game would be? Just a guess.
Just a guess. I think it would have been a 3-point, probably a 3-point spread.
I think Florida would be favored. I mean, I really do. Beating South Carolina, they look tough now. Texas A&M, you'd be on a 3-game winning streak. played Georgia tough. I think everybody's getting a little bit over, head over heels over losing to Vanderbilt, which I get. Yeah. They didn't show up. They abandoned the running game for some damn reason. Ugly, ugly loss. We've been talking about it all week. But I think for some reason that's writing Florida off.
Right.
Had they won that one, and they'd been on 3-game winning streak going into this matchup, they'd have all the momentum in the world. And look at Florida State's schedule, Shane. I looked it up. They lost Wake Forest. Come on. NC State, Clemson. They lost 3 in a row, and then they turn around. Here's their hot streak, Shane. They beat Georgia Tech, one of the worst teams in the country. They beat Miami, another worst team in the country candidate. Syracuse, I think, was pretty good week 2. They were like top 20. I don't know how many games they've won since then. And then they beat Louisiana, not LSU. Of course, they did beat LSU week 1, but that was a long time ago. They beat Louisiana. We're hyping up the Seminoles. Give me a damn break, Shane. This is a joke. Florida State, if they were in the SEC, they'd be one of the worst teams in the SEC.
Oh, without a doubt, man. We'd be talking to them like Vanderbilt.
And I think losing to Vanderbilt, if you got any heart, if you got any pride, if you're a Florida Gator, you will show up and you will play the best game you played all season. Mm-hmm. Give me Florida, Shane. And I am not even Honda Morristown this one. Florida, 28. Florida State, 20. And I think it's only an 8-point game. I think Florida State scores maybe as time expires or something to pretty it up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you got Anthony Richardson coming out, rallying the troops. This game, if you don't remember last year, buddy, it was like you watch Pierce in the NFL, and a lot of people are like, well, hell, I didn't know he'd be that good. I knew he'd be that good after that Florida State game, mm-hmm. because you could tell this game meant more to that locker room than, and everything that was going on. It was just, forget it. It was, hey, I'm going to take my boys, you're going to bring your boys, and we're going to fight out in the backyard. That's kind of what it felt like, and that's what this will be. And I just think, man, that 1-2 punch back there in the backfield, Anthony Richardson dialed in. This defense is going to be the toughest defense that Florida State has faced in the last 4 weeks. I think they're in for a rude awakening, and I'm with you, man. A lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, they beat LSU. Dude, if you put LSU and Florida State together right now, Kelly would beat the shit out of them. It is not going to be a game. You're lucky that you caught him week 1, because I think there's a couple of nights Kelly wakes up sweating, wishing he had one more opportunity. And who knows? Maybe no, there won't be. No, Florida State will never play them again the rest of this year. But I will say this, brother. I think you're right. Morristown Honda'd the deal, but I think that's more of a little bit of a fear. Maybe but the more that I talk to you, Mike, I wish I would have doubled down. I wish I would have put some more points on this one. This one I like. Put your money on the Gators.
Well, I know another one you're going to like here, Shane. Let's move to the Saturday action. Georgia Tech at number 1 Georgia Bulldogs, favored by 35.5 points. This game kicks off at noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central on ESPN, and the over's 49 points. What do you like in the ball game?
If you had plans and you're a Georgia fan, this is perfect, because at halftime, you could go ahead and leave this game, Mike. You can go knock out your chores, still have a little daylight. Who cares about daylight savings? So I think this, brother, is an absolute bloodbath. This is the Bulldogs. That people keep waiting for them to mess up. And at the start of the season, yes, they had the Kent States, they had the Missouris, but since then, there's been no mistakes. These boys have been dialed in every single week, and I'm not trying to take away from the Kentucky matchup, but we all watched the game. There was a real opportunity. Georgia could have won this thing by more scores. I know it's not a popular pick, but I felt like we got a little bit of a vanilla offense, and I think Kirby learned from that. I think they come out, they get a little bit aggressive here, let Stetson stretch the field, let them do their things, because this is preparation. Next week it gets a little bit tougher, so I think you've got to prepare for that. So expect an early lead and then sit on it. So I think they get up 35-0, and then they just kind of relax. All right, so give me Georgia. Let me get over here. Get your calculator out. Georgia 42, Georgia Tech 3.
Fourth quarter field goal, huh?
Fourth quarter field. He'll get the field goal before half, and you'll be saying, why didn't he go for the touchdown? Because he knew this was the only opportunity they were going to have on that side of the 50-yard line. So
right.
Yes, I like an absolute bloodbath here.
Well, Shane, since Georgia Tech made the coaching change, fired Jeff Collins, elevated Brent Key, them Yellow Jackets, man, they've been feisty. They've been upsetting people. They've been playing. I don't know what Jeff Collins was doing down there, but they must love them some Brent Key. He is getting this team to play out of their minds, Shane. There's going to be a lot of hype, a lot of disrespect. This is an in-state rivalry. I think, Shane, Georgia Tech comes in here playing with their hair on fire. Give me Georgia 52, Georgia Tech 0. Georgia's going to have more points than Georgia Tech's got passing yards. Marcus down. 127th passing efficiency in the country, going up against a top 10 defense. Get the hell out of here. Why are we even playing this game, Shane? Why are we even playing it?
Oh, yeah. Did you see, though? They beat North Carolina. Whatever. Get out of here. This is a national champ coming through, man. And I think the best thing that could have happened for the Georgia Bulldogs was the fact they were able to pull off an upset the week before, because now you can't overlook them. And that's the last thing you want, man, is to have Georgia Bulldogs with a big old crossbar staring right at you, and that's what exactly is happening here. These guys are going to be dialed in, and Kirby's reminded them all week of the history of this, and I'm sure he's pulled up every upset that's ever happened down there, and we're not going to see one Saturday.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that too. Kirby, he hates Georgia Tech. So pile on the points. I don't think there's going to be any foot off the gas in this one. I forgot to say lock of the week. Give me them Bulldogs. All right, how about this one, Shane? Another heated rivalry. South Carolina at number 8 Clemson. Tigers favored by 14.5 points. Noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central on ABC. The over-under 52 points. The Gamecocks keep it rolling.
Oh, Mike, there's been a lot of speculation on who was calling the plays this week. I've seen videos of Beamer out there whispering in Satterfield's ear, so I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I think whoever is calling the plays finally realized what they're working with. We've talked about it all week, man, and unfortunately – I'd like to stop talking about how good South Carolina is for a second, but I think there is some sort of continuation this week. It's going to be harder. Clemson's defense is better than Tennessee's defense. Clemson's defense does have tape on you now. Yeah. So, some of the things that you were able to do against the Vols that you haven't been doing all season, well, now there's film study for that. So I don't think that Clemson doesn't think of this as a rivalry right now. And don't get me wrong, I know they hate South Carolina and all that stuff. But when I think of rivalries, I think about going in there and having the opportunity to lose a game. Clemson does not think that they could lose to South Carolina. Clemson doesn't think that it's going to be close against South Carolina. You know who else thought that? The number 5 team in the country. Tennessee Vols, when we went over there, brother. I'm telling you right now, I didn't give it 2 thoughts. There was if I could hand pick the 2 SEC teams I had to beat to get into a college football playoff, after that Florida loss, South Carolina was one of them, brother. And now I immediately regretted it. About a quarter in, I was thinking, damn, I done messed up. Dabo coming out here talking this trash. Clemson out here, players out here talking this trash. They're using it all. It's all ammunition. And the most dialed-in player right now in the country is Spencer Rattler. And I don't see that changing this week. I think he needed that confidence boost to realize that he's got some players on his field that can go out there and make things happen. Brother, I like South Carolina not just to beat the spread, but I like them to pull off an upset here, brother. Now, I'm not super confident with the score, but I think it's going to be a tight one. I just got South Carolina scoring that last touchdown. South Carolina 28, 8th ranked Clemson going down 24. Come on, game. I'll tell you, man, I hate South Carolina right now. No offense, because they hurt my feelings, and I'm going to get over it. But if you want me to get over it quick, beat Dabo. Everybody hates Clemson. You know what I'm saying? Beat Clemson. That's good for the SEC. We're behind you on this one. So go Gamecocks.
Yeah, and for me, Shane, I mean, it's maybe overly simplistic, but it really just comes down to which South Carolina offense, which Spencer Rattler shows up. If we get last week's Spencer Rattler showing up in this ball game, I think you're 100% right. I think South Carolina ends the streak. And you made me also think, of kind of like Tennessee and Alabama. That's not a rivalry because Tennessee can't beat Alabama. Well, hell, they snap that streak. Now it's a rivalry. Now they hate them Vols. That's what South Carolina has got to channel. They have got to get over that hump. It's going to be tough going into Clemson, but number 8, give me a break. Anybody that's seen Clemson play this season, this is basically a 500 ball club in the SEC. This is not an elite team. I don't care what their record says. They don't have a quarterback. South Carolina's got a significantly better, at least the way he played last week. They're going to have a major, major advantage at the quarterback position in this ball game. Hopefully we get some of these weapons back. Jaheim Bell's heating up. Some of these receivers, Josh Vann, Juice Wells. I mean, how can you go against these guys? It ain't going to be easy, Shane. It's going to be a back-and-forth ball game. But Honda Morristown, South Carolina 35, Clemson 34. Pete Lembo dials up a fake field goal touchdown as time expires, something crazy like that. It's going to take some tricks. It's going to take, I don't want to say luck, but it's going to take winning the turnover battle, getting to their quarterback. I think South Carolina gets it done, roll into the offseason here. And, man, once again, they had all the momentum in the world last offseason. I don't know what it is about Shane Bieber and company, but they heat up late in the season. They do it again and make amends for last season's performance against Clemson.
You know, it's funny. It reminds me of my little dog, Bruno. You know, you were talking about which Spencer's going to show up.
Yeah.
And I've got a little, Bruno, 7-pound Morkies, a Maltese Yorkie mix, cute as a button, right? I didn't want the dog, but we ended up getting one for the girls, and he's become daddy's little guy. You know, he's the only one on my side. You know what I'm saying? He's always there. But I'll never forget when we moved to the new house, he was afraid to go outside. And, I think of Spencer like that. Like, he was afraid to throw downfield. He was afraid to, just trust his instincts and get the ball out there. And, soon as I got Bruno to finally go outside, now I can't keep the little bastard in. You know what I'm saying? Every time a door's cracked, he's out. If you wait 2 seconds and you don't tell him to stop, he's gone. I think that's what happened last week is Spencer got to play a little bit. Spencer got to roll around the dirt and realize he can do this. He needed that confidence boost. And I think that was the best thing that could have happened to South Carolina and, more importantly, to their quarterback. So that's what I think happens this week. Now, if they get caught looking in the rearview mirror and patting themselves on the back for the win against Tennessee, that could bite them. But I don't think that's what we see because something you mentioned just a second ago, Beamer's boys, they toward the tail end of the season have been playing out of their minds. I think that's what we see as a continuation, and that's why I like the upset.
How about this rivalry, Shane? Another big one. Louisville at Kentucky. Kentucky favored by 3 points at home. Game kicks off at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 Central on the SEC Network with the over-under at 43 points. Does Kentucky's domination in this series continue for another season?
Oh, man, Kentucky's been through a lot, Mike. Up and down, it's like a roller coaster. But I think, I think that Georgia game, even though I just kind of discredited a little bit of it earlier, I think it was big for that locker room. I think it was big for the fan base. You know, when you can go toe-to-toe and you could keep it within a couple scores of Georgia Bulldogs, there is such thing as a little bit of moral victory, and I think that's what they got. They realized that they can win games. They can stop dominant offenses. And you know who's not a dominant offense? Louisville. You know who's not a dominant team? Louisville. You know who shouldn't be a top 25 team? Louisville. All right? So there's a lot of bad things going on there, and there's going to be a lot of shit talking this week because it is a rivalry. These guys are neighbors, and the last thing you want to do, no matter how bad your season is drop a game to Louisville. And I don't see it happening here, Mike. I think Will Levis rallied the troops. You know, he was out there on the Twitters talking about, you know, they kind of grew up last week. You know, I think they've dealt with some ailments. They've dealt with some mistakes along the way. But I truly believe that this team is a unit. They're out there, and you're going to get the best football that you can get from Kentucky here, and they're going to close out the season strong. So give me Kentucky 21, Louisville 17. Low-scoring game, not going to be pretty, but give me Will Levis with the last touchdown.
Yeah, I like what you had to say at the end there, Shane. I think points are going to be at a premium, and it certainly does not help that Will Levis is banged up. So, you know, maybe I'd have a lot more confidence in Kentucky if Will Levis was at 100%, but, you know, he missed some time there against Georgia, had to exit the game. He's such a warrior. He came back and finished the deal, though. He's got to be more efficient, can't turn the ball. One turnover in the red zone could kill you against a team like this. It certainly got them last week against Georgia. This has got to be a Chris Rodriguez game. I really do think, Shane. And he's been the heart and soul of that offense for a couple of years now. And final game there up there at Kroger Field, I think he's going to have a great game. But I'm right there with you, man. Louisville, I don't know how they're going to score against Kentucky's defense, Shane. I think they'll have some tricks up their sleeve. Scott Satterfield's a pretty good coach. Remember old Tyon Evans there was at Tennessee last year. He's a great running back. He's at Louisville now, so he's going to have some success there, but not a ton. And hey, I swear we don't exchange our scores leading up to this, but we got a dead on once again. Kentucky 21, Louisville 17. Anytime Shane and I agree, not only on a pick but a score. Oh man, is that trouble for somebody?
Yeah, I think I'm confident in this one, Mike. I think Morristown Honda. I really think Kentucky just that Louisville score. It feels like it's going to be a late one. You know, just something, some garbage time, something like that. I really do think that Kentucky just does what they do. Hand it to Rodriguez. Maybe even see Will run a little bit. It was nice seeing that because when we didn't talk about it too much, but during that Georgia game, even though he got banged up in a run, you could tell we've been missing it. We really have, and this offense has been hindered because of it. And I don't know how much they plan on getting him outside the pocket, this week. But rivalries make you do crazy things, and they make you, do things you wish you probably shouldn't have. So if we can get Will running a little bit, yeah, watch out. Kentucky wins by more, but if they keep the conservative play calling, I think we're going to see a lot of Rodriguez here. Maybe a little creative with Brown out there on the outside. I think you got to get that guy in space. He proved it last week. So I think there's never any doubt in this game. Let's just put it that way.
Well, we got we got so many great matchups here. The Iron Bowl, Shane. Auburn at number 7, Alabama. Crimson Tide favored by 22 points. This game kicks off at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on CBS. Over under 49.5 total points. Who wins the Iron Bowl?
Man, you just can't kill Alabama, can you? It's like as soon as you get them out of the college football playoffs, they sneak right. They're like Wilson there, and howdy neighbor. Just can't get rid of them. Just peeking over the fence there. I love what Cadillac has been doing down there at Auburn. I think these kids are actually enjoying playing football.
Yeah.
For what that's worth. It is tough. It's not been easy, but these boys keep finding ways to win games, and I think you can feed off your coach so much. The problem is Alabama has a little life left in it, man. They're not down and out. They're not going to an SEC championship, but there's crazier things have happened, man, and they're right there on the edge of getting into that college football playoff. And to do that, you've got to leave no doubt. And going into the Iron Bowl, the last thing that you can have is another 3-point win or a 3-point loss. You got to come out here and you got to totally dominate and remind the country why you were considered the number one team in the country at one point. So I just think, unfortunately for Auburn, you're catching Bama at a very, very bad time. And so I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Give me Alabama big, 38. Auburn, 24. I like them to cover the spread, but I think Alabama just totally puts Auburn away here.
Yeah, if you just look at the matchup on paper, Shane, all the statistics not only favor Alabama, but heavily favor Alabama. But you know what I did, Shane? I took all them statistics and I threw them in the damn trash because this is a different ball club under Coach Cadillac. He's out here getting the most out of all these players. I heard Tank Bigsby say this, Shane. He's coaching the entire team like he's always coached us. And I think there's something to be said for that because these running backs have been outstanding for years on the Plains, and now the entire team is being elevated by Coach Cadillac and his enthusiasm and his energy. And let's give credit, Shane, to the rest of the staff because they're making adjustments that were not being made previously. They're clearly doing their homework and scheming up a lot of big plays for Tank and Jarquez and even Robbie Ashford, a little bit more consistent. Some of these games will be blowouts. So,
yeah,
I think, and even with all the speculation that Kiffin's coming and Cadillac's got no chance. I'm not sitting here saying Cadillac is going to be the coach or he's got a chance or anything, but you could look at that and say, maybe that's disheartening. I go the complete 180, Shane. I think these players realize that Coach Cadillac's time is coming to an end as the head coach of the Auburn Tigers. They want to send him out on the right note. They realize this is this man's dream come true, and they are not going to let him down in this ball game, Shane. I think Alabama, number 7. Man, that ain't right. I mean, they ain't beat nobody. You know what I mean? So they're number 7 because they got that A on their helmet. I do not think Alabama is quite what they're cracked up to be, even though they've got arguably the best player in all the country in Bryce Young. So I'm right there with you. I like Alabama to win it, but I really think, Shane, this is going to be a 4-quarter battle. This may be the game of the week in the SEC. Give me Alabama 28, Auburn 20. A one-score game. I think it's one of the best, well, hell, I was going to say best Iron Bowls in years, but last season was going to be tough to beat. But, man, this game is often one of the best on the calendar.
I don't know, Mike. I'm painting a different narrative here. I just think, because here's a team that has slipped up a couple of times. Tennessee, LSU, easily could be undefeated. Easily could be going to an SEC championship. They're not. If you got Georgia knocking off LSU, not saying that's what happens. You have Ohio State beating Michigan. You have TCU dropping a game, which they've pretty much tried to do every single week. Then all of a sudden there's a real opportunity for Bama to get in there. And you got to do it by comfortable victories, and you can't do it playing tight with Auburn right now. I don't know, brother.
Easily have 5 losses too, Shane. You forget that part of it.
I know. But that's going against what I'm trying to set up here. So anyway, it should be a hell of a matchup, and I'm probably wrong. Auburn ends up winning this thing. Cadillac keeps the job. Nick Saban retires. That's the end.
Yep. Just like we predicted on the last episode. All right, how about number 5, LSU, Shane, on the road at Texas A&M. The Tigers favored by 10 points. This is going to be the night game on ESPN, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central. The over-under is 47.5 points. Did the Aggies make us a ball game, and could they possibly pull off the upset?
Oh, Mike, what else is there to play for, right? You're not going bowling. I saw your boy Marler sent out an interesting tweet. He said if Vanderbilt and Missouri win today, Texas A&M would be the only SEC team not to go to a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that happens, but, if you don't win this game, you want to talk about just icing on the cake for the most disastrous season imaginable at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That would be the case here. Now, listen, Bruno, he's pumped up. He knows we're almost done here. Bruno! So, he lost my train of thought there. So, what was I saying?
Talking about A&M and this is their Super
All right.
Bowl, basically.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for bringing me back in, Mike. That's why I'm thankful to have you. All right. So, here's the deal, Mike. Why? What makes you think Week 12 is going to be the time that Texas A&M finally figures it out? Mm-hmm. What makes you think that this is the time that the fan base is going to rally and carry Jimbo off the field because they knocked out the West powerhouse, another top 5 SEC opponent? I'm not convinced that happens. How can you be convinced? They struggled last week against, whatever that team was. What was it? UMass, Indiana State University, Southern Illinois, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It should have been a total domination. It was a 1-win team, and they weren't able to just put that one away. You got nobody showing up to the game, so I'm not. I don't want to pile on Texas A&M, even though I just did. I'm not convinced that happens. I'm convinced that LSU is legit. I feel like that Arkansas game was a little bit of a wake-up call. Don't play around too much with your food. I think they come out here, they put this one away. So give me LSU 30, Texas A&M 14.
Ooh.
Jimbo gets fired after the game.
I think one of the biggest things, this is not usually something we talk about, Shane, but it's going to be interesting to see the attendance for this matchup. Mm-hmm. Now, last week, again, UMass, no one gets excited about playing UMass. The weather was ugly. And it wasn't, some of those photos may be unfair because it was after halftime, when the photos were going out and there's like 100 people in the stands.
Right.
But, there's no excuse for that. But surely the people are going to show up in full force for the final game, rivalry game. A lot on the line for them Aggies, but I'm just curious, Shane, if there's big patches of the upper deck empty, you may be on to something, because that's the beginning of the end for any coach, is fan apathy and people not showing up. So that's a little sidebar that I'll be keeping my eye on. But one thing you didn't mention, Shane, man, these A&M's offensive line, just their inability to protect their quarterbacks all season long. And, man, do they got a monster on that other side with Harold Perkins coming to College Station. So how can they block this guy? Will they be able to? I don't think they will. And then opposite him, you got B.J. Ojolari. So
right.
LSU seems to be getting better week after week after week. Jaden Daniels, we can't write him off for the Heisman, Shane. There's no one has really stepped up and seized this thing. If he has a strong game here, if they do the unthinkable and beat Georgia in the SEC championship, there's going to be a ton of support for Jaden Daniels to be the Heisman Trophy winner. So I think they keep it rolling, Shane. Big victory. We almost nailed this one too. LSU 30, A&M. I don't have confidence in them to get 2 touchdowns, Shane. A&M 13. So we're a point off, but man, yeah, A&M's offense is just so pathetic. I can't pick him.
Mike, I have no doubt A&M will fill that stadium. It just may not be the ticket holders. It's been like you help somebody there at the office. Well, I've already bought them, so you guys go on out, have some fun on me. No, I'm kidding. I hate it. I really do for A&M because they had high hopes. I had high hopes. I lost a lot of money thinking these guys were going to really make a run for it, and it has turned out, horrid. But right. You still have an opportunity. So I want to end on a positive note. It's Thanksgiving, Mike. What does A&M have to do to pull off this upset? To end this season on a good note, what will they need to do? What's the recipe for Aggies to get a victory here?
I mean, LSU's turned the ball over left and right, can't score in the red zone, no explosive plays. I mean, it'd have to be like a 7-6 ball game, because I just don't
low scoring.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. How can you have confidence in A&M to score points? And hell, the LSU defensive coordinator Matt House, we talked about it this week. He's up for assistant coach of the year. So you're not going to get in a shootout and win this ball game. It's got to be low scoring, force some turnovers, and hope maybe LSU doesn't show up. You know what I mean? And they're looking ahead to the SEC championship game, which, hey, playing on the road at night in the SEC is a nightmare waiting to happen. The 12th man has got to carry this team. Throw that into the mix. Put those pieces together. That's your path to an upset here.
Okay, all right. Yeah, see, I knew I'd get you to say something positive about Texas A&M for once.
All right, final game here, Shade. Also a sellout. How about this? I think first sellout of the season, I believe. Number 10 Tennessee on the road at Vanderbilt. Vols favored by 14 points. This is a 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central kickoff on the SEC Network. Over-unders 64 points. Will your Vols break your heart 2 weeks in a row?
Oh, Kurt Herbstreit may want to turn this one off, Mike. Oh, man. You know, here's the thing, Mike. We got in trouble last week. We got caught with our pants down, and South Carolina, they smoked us. I think that Vanderbilt has been playing great here. I don't want to take about they beat Kentucky, they beat Florida. There's been some great things. They're on the edge of making a bowl game, and even if they lose this thing, there's still an opportunity they get in. I think that's monumental for what Coach Lee's doing over there. But the problem I think they're going to run into is they've got some boys coming into town that are not happy. They are very disappointed because they were ill-prepared when they went to Columbia. Mm-hmm. They came away embarrassed, not just beat down, embarrassed. And this is a prideful program, man. Very prideful players. And I think we see a rally here. I think Joe Milton coming in, a little fresh blood, a little new look. You like throwing down the field, buddy? You're going to see it Saturday because there's going to be a lot of that. I think he'll have more airtime than Gary Danielson this weekend, brother. So here's what I predict happening. I think Milton comes out a little sloppy, a little rusty. He's not used to being numero uno. But I think that once Tennessee gets kicking in all gears, Vanderbilt just can't keep up. They can't. They're right now a one-hit wonder with Mike, and I'm not taking away from him, but Tennessee is going to force him to throw the ball, and I just don't see this. If this gets in some sort of shootout, he's not Rattler. He's not going to be able to find 3 or 4 weapons down the field. So I've got Tennessee winning and winning big, and Mike, I've not done this in a long, long time, if ever. But I'm putting my lock of the week on them big orange Vols. Give me Tennessee with the bounce back, 56, Vanderbilt, 28.
56?
This ain't no rivalry. What are you talking about?
Here's the problem for Vanderbilt, Shane. What do they do better than anything? Run the ball. Ray Davis is incredible. He doesn't get enough respect for the job he does carrying the rock for the Vanderbilt Commodores. And we've all heard all week long how god-awful Tennessee's defense is. But you know what they are actually really good at, Shane? Stopping the run. So it goes exactly what you're saying. Mike Wright, for as much as we respect him as a leader, he's tough. Man, he could have been another one of these guys that, hey, I lost my starting nod. I'm transferring. I'm opting out. I ain't playing. Mm-hmm. To hell with this team. No, he did the exact opposite. Stayed a leader. His number was called once again, and he stepped up in a big-time way without Mike Wright. As good as A.J. Swan has been, I don't think he carries them to these wins that Mike Wright has carried this team to. So, can he really win a big-time shootout? I don't think so. Not with his arm, anyway. And we talk about a sellout, it's because there's going to be a lot of Vols down there. So I don't even know how much of a home field advantage this really is. The Joe Milton factor is huge because I'm just not sold on him. Maybe he can change my mind here, but I think there's going to be a lot of open receivers that are overthrown. Tennessee is probably going to have to win this one on the ground, and they got the players to do that. So I think it's a high-scoring game for the Vols, not nearly as high-scoring as old cousin Shane, but yeah, I mean, and I just keep going back to the Florida Vanderbilt. Florida found every way possible to hand Vanderbilt that win. We got to credit the Commodores for getting it done, but man, Florida, that's one I'm sure they looked at the tape and said, we messed up here, there, about a dozen times to lose that football game. Will Tennessee respond? Where's the leadership of this team? Those are big questions I have going into this matchup. But I'm right there with you. If Tennessee shows up and plays as well as they can, this is not going to be a ball game. I don't have it quite as lopsided as you. I'm going Tennessee 38, Vanderbilt 17. And I think all things considered, Tennessee would even be happy with that result.
Yeah, but they'd be happier with mine. We just want to see Joe throw for like 800 yards and break a record. So I that's one thing, man. There's going to be a lot of rockets launched during this thing. And what I love about Tennessee is, when you think of guys like Squirrel White and, Jalen Hyatt and some of these guys, nothing against Tillman. Tillman's great. Physical, I think he's not as fast as some of these other two, and I don't think that has really been exploited as much as it was at times earlier in the season, and definitely toward the tail end of last season. So I think that it gets shows because you hear Heupel coming out. We got to start fast.
Yeah.
We got to start fast. We got to play Tennessee football. We got away from that, and the best thing about Tennessee is when you can get up 20, 30 points, you really can lean in on that defense. You really can sell out toward being, So I think that's, I think that's what happens. I really do. I get the frustration of last week, and then you in the back of your mind you're planting seeds of doubt against Vanderbilt. But when it's all said and done, which team is better? And I just think Tennessee has better athletes than Vanderbilt right now. So I think that's why we got a big win here.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, brother, hey, we went a little long on this one. I hope everybody has an outstanding Thanksgiving. Stay safe with all the travels out there. You got anything else before we hop off the line? You keep getting interrupted. It sounds like your pre-Thanksgiving Day meal is on the table, so I want to get you out of here.
Yeah, no, we got to get some stuff laid up and ready. For some reason, we're doing Christmas stuff already. I was like, come on, man. Just wait 2 days, and then we can put Christmas shit up. But anyway, that's what they want to do. They want to go get some lights and whatnot. So 'tis the season, Mike. It's like a Christmas vacation over here. So cousin Eddie just pulled in. I got to get off here. But I want to thank everybody again. I hope y'all had a wonderful Thanksgiving and enjoy some of that turkey and stuffing and whatever. I'd like to put a post. We're going to put out a post tomorrow, and if you got a Thanksgiving spread, maybe even after you got a cold beer and you got one of those That SEC podcast koozies, send a pic. I mean, we'll put it up there on the social medias. It's about family, it's about football, and it's about spending time with the ones you love the most. So, Mike,
Absolutely.
Without further ado, brother, happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you Monday.
All right, brother. Well, take care. Thanks as always. Appreciate each and every one of you. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.